What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hail to the King, a 70-year Godzilla retrospective. We're going week by week, talking about Godzilla as they come. We're watching them. It's so much fun. Trevor and Sturdy are back for another episode, and I am so excited to talk about these movies. Two of them I really had a good time with. One of them I hate watched a little bit, and we're going to get into all that and more. But yeah, this week we were talking about Godzilla versus SpaceGodzilla, which was the 40th anniversary, which is mind-boggling to say that we're celebrating the 70th this year. But yes, the 40th anniversary. Then we're going to be talking about Godzilla versus Destroyah, which is from 1995. And then we were talking about the American Godzilla film from 1998. Starring Matthew Broderick and more. But we're going to get into it. Let me bring in these awesome panelists who have joined me all throughout. Trevor Stottlemyer from Ambassador Radio and Media. Make sure to go down into the links below and go follow him everywhere and check out all the awesome work he's doing over there. He's a great guy, and we love having him here. And then while you're doing that, go down and check out the other links for Sir Sturdy, who is here. Horror with Sir Sturdy podcast. Go follow his channel, follow him on all social media, and make sure you're also following Popcorn and Pints. It's all linked down below. These guys are great, but here we go. Actually, so you know what? Let's just hop right into it. So welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for joining back in for this week, and it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be definitely interesting for sure. For the 40th anniversary, we're kicking it off with Godzilla versus SpaceGodzilla, and this is it's interesting because you were just saying the oxygen. Yeah, it's interesting because you were just saying the oxygen. You say it again.
Oxygen?
I'm leaving this in, by the way.
The Oxycontin Destroyer?
The Oxygen
That's called fentanyl.
Destroyer.
Sorry.
Why do you think like I feel like this movie, Godzilla versus SpaceGodzilla, didn't celebrate the anniversary as much as the next movie does?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that they took, when they made Godzilla versus SpaceGodzilla, they took that into account, like the fact that it was the 40th?
Oh, they did take into account it was the 40th anniversary, and they knew they had to make a Godzilla, and they did try some very new things, as you notice. The previous director is not connected to this film. The previous writer is not connected to this film. They are more on a commercial kind of silly romance background. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to make a film for the anniversary that, could kind of pull everybody in. Now, originally, it was supposed to be pretty much the same lineup except for the director, and it was going to be the return of King Ghidorah. And this was this people loved it and everything, but then it was shot down because they felt for this event we need a new monster. And also, at the time, the gentleman who made the last two Godzilla films we talked about made a film called Orichi the Eight-Headed Dragon, which looks just like Ghidorah. And at a certain point, they tried to push Ghidorah again for this particular film as, oh, we can tie everything together as far as Ghidorah with this particular creature, except that movie bombed. That killed Ghidorah. Then at a certain point, they thought about actually doing the Godzilla versus Godzilla thing again. There's a script that floated around in which Godzilla's 1954 ghost comes back to fight Godzilla. Yeah, that was quickly shot down too. Kind of piece random things together, and bada bing, bada boom, you have SpaceGodzilla.
I mean, at least they kind of made it make sense. Like, his essence or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, so it's actually one of the things I really love about the Heisei era, and I honestly feel the Heisei era influenced the legendary films more than any other run, is its consistency and its desire to maintain consistency. And even with, what seems like offshoots, it does. Because, excuse me, because if you look at Space Godzilla is connected to some previous kaiju like Biolante, and any time that Godzilla's genes were released into space, hence it could create any kind of creature. The species would mutant further, and that was kind of the idea. And then they ran with that for a while, which helped put a band-aid over logic. So
well, so Sturdy, this is the first time viewing for you, right?
Yes, sir.
Going into this one, what did you think about this one? This was first time for me as well.
I didn't really like this one.
Really? Okay.
I didn't really care for this one too much. I don't like the look of Godzilla in the Space Godzilla with the things coming out of his shoulders like that. It doesn't seem spacey to me. It just seems like we couldn't really think of what to do, so let's just throw these big ass things on his back and call him Space Godzilla. And that bothered me.
It's like Ice Festival Godzilla.
Yeah, something like that. Just Mega Godzilla. I don't know. Spiky Godzilla. Just not space. It didn't feel like a Space Godzilla type of movie. And I was upset with it. I was disappointed. Bring back those cool spaceships that I loved from earlier, from Astro Monster. Give me that. Don't give me this.
That's fair. The cool
Is it one of the better of the Heisei? Definitely not. But it introduces some interesting things, like Godzilla Jr. I mean, Godzilla Jr. has now, grown to be a kid. And well, do you guys feel that it worked?
No. Not really.
No.
I mean, he kind of looked like a plush toy.
Yeah, I didn't. It just didn't like it. It felt like they were trying to do something new for merchandise.
Too cute.
It was too cute. I know it, but there is, the only thing I can argue for it is it's less. But we'll talk about Destroyah, and then it makes even more sense. But it makes Miki Sagusa a very important continual character from when she's a child to when she has her last mental connection with Godzilla Jr. or Godzilla, which in this film, if I remember correctly, yes, is the one in which she is communicating with Godzilla via a device that they have stuck in his neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, see, for me, I didn't dislike this one. It was okay for me. I didn't love it. It's not, I out of this whole Heisei era, I probably wouldn't put it up as one of my tops. It's definitely not one of, I like it better than Biolante, I guess. Especially when we're talking about look of what we're fighting here. And especially since I'm so far ahead. And I know that actual Tokyo fights Godzilla at one point. I'm just gonna say, this is, I'm cool with this Space Godzilla for now.
I don't know if it's something I'd ever revisit. It's like my second time watching it. If my son would like to see it, yeah, great. But it was mediocre. But it did, continue with, a storyline that makes the Heisei films actually make sense as a whole.
True. And I guess I do appreciate that. It does feel like this whole charge from 1985 all the way to Destroyah does feel almost like Godzilla's last hurrah. They had this was the franchise era they wanted. They're going to tell the story, and he's going to one by one take down whoever he's got to take down all the way until he's gone. So I appreciate what that was. And so I do appreciate that this movie exists within this storyline. But yeah, for me overall, though, it's just not great. I do think it's worth checking out at least once, though.
I mean, it's got a lot of, the miniatures are wonderful. I mean, the pyrotechnics in the film are mind-boggling. So on a special effects level, I think it's a lot of fun. It's really worth watching for that. But no, it almost seemed like Space Godzilla and Godzilla were an afterthought. And, the Godzilla just kind of strolls in, they control him, he kicks some ass, and then he disappears again. And, this time everybody gets a little teary-eyed. Everybody, you know, makes that connection that, wait, we actually do screw everything up. And this is Mother Nature saying that she's dissatisfied with us. So, yeah, it works in that respect. But, you know, as far as a fully enjoyable film, maybe not.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I do agree with you too, Sturdy. Like it takes too long too, because of the design of his flight and the design of like the crystals and all that stuff. Like it throws you off. It's like, yeah, all right. Moving along though, kind of over to Godzilla versus Destroyah, which came out a year later and feels more to me like it has that finality, like it has that that anniversary feel, you know, like they really go back and touch to the original, and more so than any since 1985 or the return of Godzilla, you know, it does. So before we do, is there any history to this that you could share?
As far as the well, it was a huge merchandising ploy. So the Godzilla films had been going down in success financially, and it was decided that, you know, at the time of SpaceGodzilla, there was already talk, and I think the rights were sold to TriStar Pictures, which we'll talk to more when it comes to the next film. But there was already a plan laid out leading up to the American Godzilla, and what was eventually going to be 10 years after that, a new film would come out. So Godzilla versus Destroyah was marketed from the beginning. This is the death of Godzilla. Godzilla's gonna die. I mean, literally 20-foot banners were set up around Tokyo saying Godzilla is dead. This was an event, and they knew they could market it because whether the films were doing well or not, you couldn't escape the death of Godzilla. Which in all franchise, we know that's not really true, but that's why this film seems so much more like an anniversary film, because it was at least for a decade supposed to kill off the Japanese Godzilla.
Wow. Okay.
So that's,
again, from beginning, you know, getting the idea that they wanted to start it and begin it, start it and end it, and this was going to sort of be that ending. I was okay with it. You know, I'm okay with the notion of it, and the fact that 1998 is the next one that exists, I think, bothers me even more. But but Sturdy, let's. What did you think about this movie? Going into it, because I know you've been pretty critical about the Heisei so far.
I don't think I like this this generation of Godzilla. I like this one way better than SpaceGodzilla, a lot better than SpaceGodzilla. But it was still, this one wasn't bad. I'll say that this one wasn't bad. It was decent, but it was still like, it's just not giving me what I want. Still, like this one, I feel they actually, for me, I feel like they're like, listen, Sturdy, we're gonna try for you this time, and they tried for me. And they almost got me there, but I'm just like, it's just I don't even know. I don't even know what it was about this one I didn't like, because I didn't mind the battle I loved, and then the like Godzilla. This whole time you're thinking he's gonna freaking explode. It's like that I loved, but I think the look of his, like, you know what it was that bothered me with this? I did enjoy this one. It's the look of him. The look of him, like when his chest looked like it. I felt like that could have, and I understand when it came out, well, 90s. I just feel like I could have looked better, but I also feel like it was just one of those 90s things where it reminded me of like a lot of those other toys that kind of lit up on the chest right here, like lit up here.
It did literally light up.
And then lit up on the back. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's Godzilla's thing, but still, it looked like just one of those toys where when they came out in the 90s, every single toy that had that like little light up thing in the front and the back was like made the exact same way, and that's what I saw when I seen this. As a kid, cool. As an adult, I'm like, I just imagine that shitty ass toy now that didn't even glow. It was just different colors that kind of looked cool in the lighting, so it even tricked us then. But it was definitely better than SpaceGodzilla. A lot better than SpaceGodzilla.
I like this one actually, and I saw a lot that looked very close to, and correct me if I'm wrong, to like maybe like Aliens or Predator 2.
Oh yeah, a lot of. Well, you know, it's weird. if you really sit back and look at the Heisei era, if you had to pick one film or film franchise that had the biggest influence on the Heisei era, it's the Alien franchise.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
it really does. And that and Terminator for sure plays a big role. This,
of course, Indiana Jones, like, beat you over the head reference. So
Jurassic Park. There's a lot that plays into this, in a big way. And it's funny because I think even Toho sort of copied Jurassic Park in a better way than the next movie we talk about, which was trying to rip off Jurassic Park. But to kind of continue on with Destroyah, though, I did like the movie. It was sort of a limp across of the goal line in my opinion. Like, I am very excited to get to talking about, because I really like Godzilla 2000. So I'm really excited to start talking about that and its preceding films after, because even that's the Heisei era too, and that, from what I'm understanding, just learning more and more about the eras, like, and those are very different. I know those better than I knew these.
Well, those got pretty instant international release, and were available on home video in the United States like ASAP, unlike the core of the Heisei era, which a lot of these movies didn't actually, become available until around the time of 1998, to, of course, tie in and make more money off the future film we're talking about in this segment. But a couple of things about Destroyah I wanted to mention was, number one, it will always have a place in my heart because it's it is my son's favorite Godzilla. And I'll always love it for that. I have to say that using the concept of here's the idea. So the oxygen destroyer is actually what creates Destroyer. So Dr. Serizawa does fail because the oxygen destroyer has created a species. The opening credit sequence, on which it references the oxygen destroyer and the bubbles, was actually the most expensive scene to film that entire film.
Really?
Yeah, at the time.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was very expensive. I mean, computer generated stuff was very expensive at that point. I do like the use of the oxygen destroyer as this, so it connects it to the first film, but it separates what was becoming a cliche, in which all these monsters are showing up from Godzilla DNA, but he is the walking or flying epitome of what killed Godzilla. And, like any franchise, and this is actually the high point of this film, in my opinion, is when Destroyah brutally kills Junior, and Godzilla cries, and he is angry, and he just goes all in. And just by chance, G-force and this whole thing, the combination of them trying to freeze him and everything, so this meltdown that's supposed to destroy the earth actually doesn't completely happen, because Godzilla Jr. absorbs a majority of it, hence the next film, which will probably come out in 10 years. And it's beautiful because Ikafube returned with one of his most aggressive, beautiful scores in his last one. And one of the things I think is truly amazing about that film is when you see what you assume is pretty much Tokyo demolished, it's completely quiet, and there's blue fog, and you just see a silhouette of the next generation of Godzilla. So as far as a pseudo swan song, I think it did that well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it did. The story wise, I think it ties in really well. For me, it was one where I enjoyed it, and it was probably one of my more favorites out of this whole run. I just don't think I had as much fun in this run as I did in the previous, or what I know I'm about to come into.
Oh, I'll agree with you on that.
Yeah. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I really got, like, this was, in my opinion, like the darker run of Godzilla.
Yeah.
in a weird way, where even though they're copying a lot of different movies, do you guys think that like this is sort of a dark period of Godzilla?
I would say for this one in particular, this movie in particular, especially, just what I mean, his son, his son dying, and then that whole scene right there, I was just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Because like when that happens and stuff, right? When they show Junior Godzilla or Godzilla Junior, or the hell they called him, I kept thinking he was gonna get up. I thought that they were gonna get him up, or I thought that he was gonna get up for a minute, but I'm like, nah, he's not getting up. He's not getting up. Like when they were standing like over here and here fighting, him, the father, or Godzilla and Destroyah, when they were fighting and they kind of showed him on the ground, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, it was. I mean, oh man, now I'm starting to come back around.
They are so much darker than any of the other periods, and that's actually what I like about them. So Godzilla is brought back as a force of nature that wants to destroy humanity, or even doesn't care that much. It just, it's almost like this predestined concept that this creature understands that human beings are destroying the earth. And it slowly it starts bringing in Mothra, and it starts building in its own way this monster verse, which leads to the thesis that humans as a species will always take knowledge and science and use it to only eventually destroy themselves. A big thing about the Godzilla franchise is it doesn't damn science. It doesn't, science is a good thing. Human beings suck.
Yeah.
And we need kaiju of some level, especially, we start seeing it in the Heisei area, to create some kind of balance.
Yeah, I do. This one does. I think this one really sets the tone well for what Godzilla, what we really love about Godzilla. And building that story, like you said, Legendary borrows from this a lot, and I think something like a Godzilla 1985 and what's coming up with Godzilla 2000 and such, we'll see, help make Godzilla -1 happen, in a big way. So, I can appreciate that. So now I've kind of been stalling long enough. We've talked about Godzilla versus SpaceGodzilla and Godzilla versus Destroyah, and now we're gonna be jumping over and talk to America. Talk about a little Godzilla film that was made in 1998. Well, it's a movie that was entitled Godzilla. It came out in 19.
This is a very good way of putting it.
1998. Yeah. It has a dinosaur in it. That's basically really what it comes down to. I'm going to share a quick little story about this. I have a fondness for this movie. I have a hatred and a fondness. I hate it because it's bad. And it's really bad. It's not a Godzilla film. And we'll get into that part. I have a fondness for it because I used to escape to the movies. Now, I've talked a lot about things in my life and stuff like that, but the movie theaters was an escape for me. Getting out and being able to go was always a big deal. And this was a movie I remember going on a particularly rough day, and I got to go see it. And this was this is my first time seeing Godzilla on the big screen.
Oh,
so there's a fondness there because it did make me jump in deep and learn about Godzilla. It saved me from a very bad day. It's the reason I'm doing this right now, and doing the deep dives, and that I love Godzilla as much as I do, is because I watched this and I was like, this isn't good, but I know Godzilla is so famous and so huge. Like, I want to do a deep dive into why it's like this. So, and in 1998, that was not an easy. That was not as easy as it is right now. You guys know that. So this was always a big deal for me. With that being said, that's my fondness of this movie. Please, let's get into it. Don't feel we have to hold back in any way, shape, or form.
Was this Sir Sturdy's first watch of this?
Yes.
I want your opinion.
Yeah, you go first, sir.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, Trevor, I didn't know what the hell I was watching. I texted Mick at one point. I was like, this feels like Jurassic Park. And then it didn't. It felt like a bad romance movie. And then it felt like I want to, not even a good, not even, I won't, when I say Jurassic Park, I mean like a low level Jurassic Park, like I don't even know. Jurassic Park. You don't even get the you don't even get to do this drug. You just get the R.
Ass Park. That's
No, because
it.
that sounds like a good ass park sounds like a good time, depending on the ass you're talking about. But Jurassic Park, no one knows what that is, just like this movie. And I'm just like, what were they trying to do in this? This doesn't feel like Godzilla. Why did they bring it to America? Why did they American? Why do we put our hands on foreign films and just ruin it? Can we stop doing that, please, America? I know this movie's from 1998, but we've done it over and over and over and over and over again. If anything, just bring the films here so we can see them. But don't remake them, don't redo them, don't dub them, leave them how they are, how beautiful they are. Because you got this is the worst Godzilla movie I've ever seen in my life. Like all the other ones that I said I hated or didn't like, this tops it. This is right now. This is the Blood Lake of Godzilla, and that's bad. If you know Blood Lake and you know my rant on Horror Research 30,
Blood Lake.
I hated this one. I did not like it. I didn't like the way Godzilla looked. That's what bothered me from the beginning.
Let me ask you. Would you watch this again, or would you rather watch this again or Blood Lake?
Oh, this by far. It was a better movie than Blood Lake. I love Blood Lake. Like this was the
Blood Lake, the shot on video one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for shot on video films. Yeah,
listen,
I would probably watch it for this.
That's Sturdy's most hated movie of all time. So
awesome.
I would love to hear your thoughts. Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it years ago. Thought it was typical shot on video stuff.
Okay. So save the Blood Lake talk for his show. I can't talk about that stupid movie ever again.
But
I've watched that movie 5 times, Trevor. I've watched that movie. Yeah, 5 times. Like, yeah. And now let's talk about this stupid movie that I've now watched 3 times in my life. I don't know. I've watched it one time in between because I was like, you know what? Let me revisit. It can't be that bad. And it was. It was that bad. It was. Mm-hmm. We know. Okay. Before we get into Trevor, I know there's a rich history here, and I know you know it, and I can't wait to hear.
Before I try justifying this film,
or any part of it. This feels like, first of all, the despicable nature of the fact that they made France the bad guys.
Thank God you brought that up, because that's a huge step right there at the beginning of the film. That I remember seeing this in a theater too, and I was in my late teens, and that was one of the first things that made me go, huh? Yeah.
I'm like, wait,
America can't even take the blame for a fictional character. We have to freaking rewrite it.
Oh my God.
Yep.
France was testing. I mean, not saying they weren't, but you know what I mean. Oh my God, it's so ridiculous. They had to work that everything about this movie.
Well,
it's so poorly done. But I do have a piece of trivia for you. It is the only piece of trivia I knew about this movie. I still know about this movie that I carry with me since the movie came out, and I learned it on Entertainment Tonight. So in the movie, we see the MetLife building, right?
Yes.
And there's a big hole in it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why there's a big hole in the MetLife building? Because they said the only way you're allowed to use our building is that in any shot, which the MetLife building is a big building in New York City, is if you cannot knock it down. That's the only thing. So they just
can't get rid of the MetLife sign,
and you can't get rid of the MetLife sign.
That was a biggie.
So they put a hole in it. So I thought that was pretty clever.
That was clever, but I think
clever thing that came out of this movie.
But I'm not even gonna say it's corny at MetLife Stadium, because they probably know how bad this movie was gonna be. Like, you ain't gonna tear up our building putting out this shit. Absolutely not. If it was something like some of the other ones, maybe. But this,
you couldn't even make him like. I'm speechless with this movie. Like, I forgot he was a worm guy. Like, you couldn't even make him a freaking paleontologist, which was like all the rage.
Digging for worms in Chernobyl.
Well, they didn't want it to copy Godzilla too much, guys. Come on, man. Or Godzilla. Jurassic Park too much.
Well, there's a reasoning for that, which I can go into though.
There was a reasoning for it?
Oh yeah, there's a total. Okay, so the saga of TriStar developing a U.S. Godzilla starts around 1994, and part of that is comes with the celebration of the 40th and also everything. But it was going to be a done deal. Toho finally said, "Hey, we'll sell the rights. It's going to do great. And Jean Lebont of Speed was originally connected to the project. It was a very different project. He even went to Toho, met with all the executives and everything. Everything seemed great, except TriStar saw his budget and said no, and he walked. TriStar immediately started after Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin because of the success of the film Independence Day, which to this day is not a well-made film full of amazing holes. But if you happen to walk by a television, for some reason, gravity is like totally screwed up and your ass sucks to the seat and you watch Independence Day. So it had that popularity, but they also produced it on a very good budget. So TriStar wanted them, went after them quite a bit. And finally, when they said, okay, we'll think about it, it came with a lot of stuff from Roland Emmerich that is very problematic. Number one, he didn't like the Godzilla films. He thought they were cheesy. He didn't like the idea of maintaining a canon. And he thought the Godzilla, just in general, looked stupid. And he wanted to separate this film as much as he possibly could. This became almost like a reluctant ego boost for Emmerich. You know, this is my Godzilla. It's nobody else's Godzilla. And by doing so, it also included the creation of Zilla, which is this kind of a mixture of a chameleon with a bearded dragon and a gimpy kangaroo. And so the Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin go to Tokyo, in which they are going to show them the design that is finally, it is solid. This is what Emmerich wants. This is his Godzilla. The story goes, there was silence and nothing was said, and they left. And the powers that be at Toho went, yeah, this is not going to work, but cha-ching, 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 we're going to make an amazing payday off this thing no matter what. Even if he messes things up, it just comes back to us again. Go ahead, guys, make your movie. So they okayed it. Now, almost 200 people between computer animating and also not stop motion, but miniature animatronics worked on Zilla. 200. That's insane. I mean, this Godzilla isn't a Godzilla. He is a takeoff of Jurassic Park. When he has his babies in Madison Square Garden, that is just an excuse to have raptors in the film. One of the things that bothered me most about the film, well, two things. Number one, Godzilla is running away all the time. I mean, it's like Godzilla is playing really bad laser tag with the military, because they're just destroying everything, and Godzilla is like, put his Jordans on, he's running all over the place. And then, literally, the Brooklyn Bridge falls on him, and we take him out with a couple freaking missiles. It goes against the whole concept, and yet again goes into that whole jingo-tastic thing that made Independence Day so popular. It came down to Godzilla, King of the Monsters, but guess what? Our military can take his ass down, unlike yours. So, there's a lot of reasons why this film rubs me the wrong way. Also, the overt Siskel and Ebert thing with the governor. I recently watched the episode of Siskel and Ebert they did about Godzilla, in which Siskel was actually ill at the time and called in from his house. And it was an interesting review, because basically they said, if they really wanted to make a statement, Godzilla would have killed us. So, yeah, and that's basically this film in a nutshell. Now, one thing good I can say for it is the same thing you can say good for The Phantom Menace. There's a whole generation that didn't have the luxury of syndicated television playing Godzilla nonstop, and this was their first taste, as in Phantom Menace was their first taste. And then it took them back to the really good part of the buffet.
That's fair.
So with that, it did open some doors for new fans like Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I can attest to that because again, for me, like I did see them on back in the day, but like to me, they were just Godzilla movies. You know, you didn't have that appreciation for them like you did as a kid. I did, you know, I can speak it for me personally. And then when I saw this, I'm like, it's such a long history. I want to get into it more and start learning about it more and, you know, start picking up books and stuff like that. And then smack, boom, next year, the very next year after that comes out, Godzilla 2000. And it's like, oh, okay. So that awakens me to this whole new line of,
oh, Toho scrambled.
Yeah.
They scrambled hardcore when the film, I mean, the Zilla film, Godzilla 98, actually did well. It brought in twice its budget. It was supposed to be a trilogy, but I mean, Emmerich was, I mean, he would go on social media boards at the time. They weren't really social media boards, but they were boards like you have your Yahoo chat among Godzilla fans, and he'd go on and troll people because they would say bad things, and he would go off on these tangents about, I'm the fucking director, it's my fucking Godzilla, and I don't fucking care. So, you know, he's got some insecurities there. But eventually he did admit about a decade later that, yes, he did screw up the franchise. And honestly, all he wanted to do was do what they do best, make another disaster.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it
I
pisses
don't
you
want to
off
turn
even
into
more.
a Roland Emmerich bashing, whatever. Good luck. Have fun. Do whatever you gotta do. But
I mean, imagine the guilt of coming to terms with having the ability to do anything you want with this franchise and delivering a turd sandwich.
yeah,
I mean, you just screwed up what is like half the world's, like, you know, like if I could put a crazy thing on my bucket list, it's I get to make a Godzilla movie of my design. Well, sorry, you messed it up.
bad.
Real
You made
like,
you watched.
and it was to the point
It's
where
a
like,
shit sandwich. Yeah.
so like what you're from all the things that you just told us. First of all, someone needs to tell them what the 5 finger said to the face. That's one. And two, it's like, so you just dug yourself a hole. You dug yourself in such a stupid hole that you didn't need to do. Like for something like that, to get that opportunity, but okay, listen, anybody that touched these original films, would anybody like to work with me? Because I want to keep the original feel for it. Even if, you know what I mean, if you want to put your own spin on it, but I want it to be to where it's going to be respected, loved, and help this. I mean, I guess it did still help it grow. People are just like, you know what, if this was supposed to be the last Godzilla movie ever, we can't end on this bullshit. That's bad. we don't want it to end like that. Be remembered like that. Forget it. But no, he could have really did. Not only that, he could have did something for himself in like the selfish way of, this movie was amazing. Yes, now let's have that trilogy. Oh my god, these were awesome. But now it's just like, you're the guy who just fucked up Godzilla in '98.
I mean,
Simple as
one
that.
thing I will say for Emmerich is he reluctantly did it. He did not want to do the film. And it was only, basically what came out later was in a joint interview, I believe, is Devlin really pushed Emmerich because at the time they viewed themselves as a unit. And Devlin was a humongous Godzilla fan, and Emmerich thought it was stupid. And now they both regret actually having Emmerich direct the film. He looks back at it now as a bad decision, and Devlin looks back at it as, yeah, we're great together, but this recipe, there should have been another director.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at least they're very open about, you know, their past sins.
And with something like that, I feel if you're gonna go through and do that and remake a movie or whatever you want to do and put your own vision on it, have a director that's a fan of that. Like if you're already the fan, have someone else that's a fan of it, just like you are, or even a bigger diehard fan, because then you're gonna put that passion into it that it deserves, and you're not gonna come up with something like this.
But look at it now. Like even like the Legendary, I like what they're doing with Legendary, and we're gonna get more in depth with that. But like to compare it to this, because it's the both most closely, I guess. The 1956 version and 1985, right, are really, and the Legendaries are all American. So the Legendary, I like them, but then you get something like Godzilla -1, you know, which is such a
gorgeous.
The Godzilla 89 is more of a remake of the Beast of 20,000 Fathoms. It's like an updated version of that, which highly influenced Godzilla, but that's being kind to the film, because that film had more influence on this Godzilla film than any other Godzilla film had on it.
Yeah, this one was just, it was just a really poor, like, it's too bad too, because like you're right, like it did introduce a lot, and thankfully there is a rich long history up to this point. So anybody who gets introduced to Godzilla just by name through this movie can go back and be like, well, why did it last so long if this is bad? You know, that's the only thing I can think.
As every advertisement and everything said, size matters.
I know, right?
That's really lame. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
But you don't have to make Godzilla into a dick joke just to get people in the seats. And it was plastered everywhere.
And on top of that, if you're going to make it into a joke like that, make it good, make it funny, make it unique, not to just size. I mean, the fuck. That's not very genius. It's not very Godzilla, like, if you ask me, actually.
I mean, unfortunately, that Godzilla could not live up to its own hype. So, you know, if he was human, he probably would have bumper balls. So, you know what bumper balls are.
Bumper balls.
Well, guys,
so we got to see the inadequate Godzilla after he spent millions telling everybody about how big he was.
You're talking about, it was a nice movie.
Yeah, we'll talk about disappointment. You know,
this one had a nice square jaw. He was a nice movie star. You know, he's all good. So
the Bruce Campbell of Godzilla.
There you go. That's what it is.
I hate putting Bruce Campbell. No, I can't do that. I love him too
much. Fair. Well, I want to thank you guys again for jumping on the show and being great panelists, joining me on this journey. The worst is behind us, I would say, because that is the worst, in my opinion. And we are charging forward. Next week, we're going to be back. We're going to be doing Godzilla 2000 Millennium from 1999, Godzilla versus Megaguirus from 2000, Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack from 2001. That will be our final episode where we do 3 movies, and then we'll be going down to 2 apiece. So join us. Make sure you are liking, subscribing, and hitting that bell so you know when great episodes like this and more come out. So join us for Godzilla and other shows. Make sure you are following my buddy Sturdy and my buddy Trevor here from Ambassador Radio and Media, and Horror Research Sturdy and Popcorn and Pints. Guys, we're gonna we'll talk to you guys very, very soon. I'm running out of oxygen again. Destroyah is here to get me. But we will talk to you guys very, very soon. Remember to be kind to each other. Stay classy. Take care of yourselves because that's important. And I will
thank you all.
Bye.